Prices are constantly increasing, and products are being replenished on our shelves at a slower and slower pace. Inflation? I wish that's all it was, but there are a couple of other problems going on in the world that could be assisting in that as well. There are two canals that are very important to our everyday life, and people probably don't even know who, what, when, where, or why. I'll tell you who: the Panama and Suez Canal. The what is what they are carrying, which is products from all around the globe that are being delivered to different countries. They've been doing this for a couple years at least. Where are they? Well, I hope you're just speaking of the Suez Canal and not Panama Canal, because it's in the name. But the Suez is a canal that's located in Egypt and is connected to the Mediterranean and Red Sea. Why? I don't know, I didn't dive that deep. But I do know that these two canals have been having massive problems which had led to major inconveniences for us. Notice I said inconveniences and not problems, because at the end of the day, the products will get to us whether they use these canals or not. Times may vary and price may increase, but you'll get what you want. We've been spoiled too much at getting things at a moment's whim. Thanks DoorDash and Amazon, but good things come to those who wait. And the wait times are getting longer and longer. Let me explain. First, the Panama Canal. An impressive thing built a long time ago. How long ago doesn't really matter now, does it? It is vital to us today, and I don't much care what they were transporting in the early 1900s. So I won't bore you with the history. I'll just hit some important points. The canal was finished in 1914, and the way it works is pretty cool. There were 22,000 to 33,000 workers that died putting this thing together. So we salute our fallen brothers. Thank you for the rice and gasoline. Despite the price of gas now, but you know my car needs it. It's not going to drive itself off a cliff with water. Well, I guess some cars do that. But still, the Panama Canal is amazing. 40% of all United States shipping trade goes through Panama Canal, and everything that's made in China. So give your respect and bow to the canal. But the canal in recent years is having problems. It's very thirsty and needs a bit of water. A couple million gallons worth to quench its thirst. You see, the Panama Canal has been drying up, well, not the canal itself, but the water sources that's been used to make the canal work. There are two lakes in Panama that gives up their water to canal willingly or unwillingly. I don't think anyone ever asked their opinion. Lake Gatun and Lake Alajuela, pronounce them as you see fit. Those two lakes are losing water fast and not getting that water back as fast as they used to. Some April showers would do the lakes some good, but it's been a dry spell the last couple of years. I don't know if global warming is real, but I know El Niño is. And for those who don't know what El Niño is, here is a screenshot of the Google page. Pause and read at your convenience. El Niño has been getting worse and staying longer for some reason. Global warm? Nah, impossible. Without the rain giving the lakes back water, the canal cannot be used as thoughtlessly as in the past. Why? I'm glad no one asked. It's because of two reasons that are connected. One is that the Panama Canal uses a fuck ton of water for every boat that passes through. 52 million gallons of fresh water is used every time a boat wants to go through the canal. The second reason is that Lake Gatun, which provides a lot of the water the Panama Canal uses, is also the main supply of water for the people of Panama. And one boat uses as much water in one trip through the canal as 2.25 million people would use in an entire day. The government in Panama had to make a choice, either dry out your people or use the canal a bit less. They made their choice, and I can't be mad at it. I'll just yell at the store's employee for being out of stock. Now less boats go through the canal. It went from 36 ships per day to just 18 ships. And those 18 ships are usually carrying less cargo, so less water is needed to lift the ships up. The ships allowed through has been cut in half, and the cargo they carry has been reduced too. You can see why there's some problems. Feel sorry for yourself though, don't feel sorry for Panama, cause things over there are great. There may be only 18 ships let through instead of the usual 36, but all the ships are still there just waiting for their turn. And your turn can come a little quicker if you just leave a little tip, which a lot of companies are doing. Instead of waiting in line for 11 to 23 days at a time, companies are paying as much as $4 million just to skip the front of the line. And you can make reservations to go through, but they have to be made months in advance now. But check this out. Panama made $4.32 billion off the canal in 2022, which is 6.5% of its entire GDP, and had a 15% increase from that in the last year, a 15% increase with 2% less product coming through the canal. While you would think this a feel-good story of a government choosing its people over its own greed, no, it's not that. They just didn't have to choose. Your people are happy and will not have to cut back on their usual water usage, and Panama will still make just as much, if not more, money off the canal. Win, win. Well, not for you, but just be patient. And don't worry, you're not the only one being affected by a canal. The Suez Canal, not as important to people in the United States, but Europe and Asia are pretty fond of it. It's a canal that's owned by Egypt, but it wasn't always. I'll lift my ban on history to tell you a little about the Suez because I find it interesting. The canal has been around for hundreds of years, but the way it looks now started in 2016 when it was expanded. But recent events is not the only time the canal was in crisis. They had some issues back in 1956 when Britain and France wanted control over the canal. Egypt nationalized the canal, so it was no longer a private entity, but owned by Egypt. Egypt didn't do this randomly either. It's because Britain and the United States decided to cut funding for a little project Egypt was doing. A lot of oil goes through this canal, about 7 to 10% of the world's oil goes through it, which is about 1 million barrels per day, and a lot of it is going to Europe. Threatened with their oil supply being cut off, Britain and France made a plan. They hyped up Israel to go and start a war with Egypt over the canal and would swoop in and instruct Israel to retreat, and they would take over the security of the canal. A perfect plan that actually worked until the US of A stepped in and was like, nah, this not happening, cease fire from all parties, and had the United Nations step in and give control back to Egypt, which made France and Britain not huge fans of the United States for a little bit. But you know where they're gonna go if not back to Big Daddy. During recent times, however, Suez Canal is still a major trade route, with 12% of global trade going through there and 30% of global shipping container traffic traveling through the canal. I'm sure you heard about the Gaza-Israel conflict and how the Houthis are showing their support by attempting to blow up any ship that even thinks of going towards the canal. I know what you're thinking. What do ships thousands of miles away have to do with the Gaza war? I don't know, and I don't think the Houthis know either. But fuck if it ain't annoying. So a lot of ships have started to avoid the Red Sea route to the Suez Canal altogether, causing a massive decrease in traffic, which caused a massive decrease in revenue. In 2024, the Suez Canal revenue has dropped 40–50% since 2022–2023. It made $9.4 billion that year, then made $7.2 billion in 2023. 2024, which was already a 23% decrease. Oh, they also have a problem with a decrease in water, which is evident by the global news event of a shipping container ship being stuck in the canal for a month. Yeah, we are having major problems with some major players of our global economy, and there aren't any real plans to fix them. I mean, how could you fix it unless you can just make it rain? Panama could with all the extra money they're making, but that's not the type of rain we need. Do with this information what you will, which is probably nothing, but it's interesting, isn't it? Oh, I have to go. I have a message that my contractor is having a delay in receiving some items.